everyone, I studied architecture and urban design at the University of Cambridge and graduated a few years ago with a master's degree in architecture and urban design. So in this video I want to talk a little bit about the whole application procedure, such as the things that you need to submit, what the entry requirements are, how long the process takes, and I'll go also into a little bit more detail about my experience in the interview. So if you're thinking about applying to University of Cambridge for architecture as a graduate student, stick around because this is probably going to be interesting. So first, let's talk a little bit about their entry requirements. So to apply to this master's program, you need to have already done your bachelor's degree from a UK university in architecture or something that's pretty similar and related to this field. You need to have secured a first class honours or a high 2-1, and you need to be able to speak and write and understand English very well. There's actually a tool online on their website that tells you whether you need to submit evidence of your English competencies. I'll put the link to this tool in a video description below. So generally, if you're a British citizen and you come from an English-speaking country or you've already done a degree, I think you don't need it, but double check. To apply, you need to submit all of the required documents onto their online portal. You also need to submit an application fee. At the time, I think it was £50. Probably it's the same now. Now let's talk a little bit about what you have to submit. I don't know when you are watching this video from. It could be 10 years from the date of upload. So please double check on the admissions website what the exact requirements are. But at the time of filming, which is in 2023, and from my experience of applying back in, I think, 2014, these are the documents that you need. So first, you need 2 references. I think online they say that it should be academic references. So in my case, I asked my tutor from my bachelor thesis, and I also asked the course director of architecture from my previous university to write the reference. Before you put these people down as your references, I would advise that you contact them first, because everyone is really busy, and of course people want to help, but sometimes people just don't have the capacity to do so, or they might feel like they're not the best person to write a reference for you. So double check beforehand. You also need to submit your academic transcript from your first degree. Now this is a very detailed list of all the modules you took at your previous university and the exact mark you got for every single one of them and the overall score. If you don't have this document on hand, contact your previous university, they should give it to you. Then you also need to upload a CV or resume that basically lists the things that you've done, where you studied, what grades you got, what work experiences you have, and what other interests and skills you think the application people should know about. Maybe you want some special award for your project and you think this would be helpful for them to know, or you've written articles for publications or websites. If you don't tell them, they will not know. And then of course, if required, you need to upload evidence of your competency in English. You also have to upload a sample portfolio. They would be quite specific about the number of pages and the size of the document. So don't just upload a document that details every single piece of art you've made from the age of 3 to 19. Be very selective. You want to showcase your best work. And don't worry, if you get invited to an interview, you can still bring along a bigger portfolio of yours to showcase all of your skills and interests and what you enjoy doing and what you've done in the past. Another document that they require as part of the application, and this is a really important document, is your research proposal. Now, this is supposed to be a written piece of work that's around 1,000 to 1,500 words that details maybe an area in architecture or, I don't know, urban development or something that you find very interesting and that you want to explore in greater detail as part of the degree. And as part of this document, you need to include also like key references and literature review. I will make a complete separate video where I just literally read out loud exactly what I wrote for my research proposal, so you can have an idea of what maybe the kind of material that they would expect. And then they also require you to submit a sample piece of work. So this could be a selected piece of writing coming from your bachelor's graduating thesis. What I actually submitted was a complete essay I did for like a history of architecture module in my previous degree. I think it was around 3,000 words that I submitted. It was about courtyard housing in the center of Beijing. I wrote about it because I was pretty interested in like Chinese architecture in Beijing for a while. So there's no very strict rules on what you should write about. But I guess it helps to have it relate to architecture and urban design in some way. And again, I will make another video where I literally read out loud what I wrote in this essay. So now let's talk a little bit about the process and the timeline, at least that I went through. So I submitted my application on 3rd of January, and on the 12th of February I was invited to an interview. On the 10th of March, I attended the interview. I didn't hear back for a while until the 16th of April. There was an email from Cambridge University. Yeah, that was a nice day. So this is the overview of the process and the timeline. Now let's talk a little bit more in detail about the application and interview. For the application, I would actually say give yourself plenty of time to prepare all of the documents. I mean, I'm not like the most fastest person when it comes to things that are really, really important because I tend to overthink a lot and basically question every single thing I write. I think the research proposal actually ended up taking most of my brain power because this was not a document that I had to write before, and none of the other universities that I was trying to apply to had requested this. So it's not like I could just copy and paste a ready-made document that I was using for 5 different applications. So I just ended up spending a lot of time researching by watching videos. Like I watched so many TED Talks, reading a lot of really random books, read a lot of papers online, downloaded a lot of documents from UN Habitat, and just generally, you know, trying to fill my brain up with information so I can find something interesting and regurgitate it out as a piece of research proposal that made sense. So this is probably what you'll spend a lot of time talking about in the interview, but I wouldn't really stress too much about it because I didn't actually end up doing my thesis on the research topic I submitted, because after I started the degree, I had received a little bit of like negative feedback about my research proposal. So it's not too late to change after you start. But you do need to make it as good as you can as a starting point for the application and as a starting point for having a debate in the interview. So for the portfolio, I think it wasn't actually too time consuming and difficult to put together because I had used a similar portfolio already for other university applications. It was basically me picking the highlights from my already existing body of work and trying to really sell myself. When it comes to references, I think you should give yourself plenty of time to get in contact with the people that you want to put down as your referees. It takes time to write these letters, and the people you contact might have to write letters for like 100 other students who are also applying for university around this time. Actually, for one of my tutors that I put down, I think he was a little bit short of time, so he basically asked me to write a draft about myself from his perspective, and then he would just like proofread it and add and omit things that he feels is necessary. So let's talk a bit about the interview process. Beforehand, I'd also prepped myself by reading up a lot of information about the people who I thought were going to conduct the interview. I got some different people. So during the interview, it was supposed to last 20 minutes. We went through my portfolio. We talked a bit about what I studied, where I studied, my work experience, the type of projects I worked on. So all of that was fine. But I do remember at some point when I was going through my portfolio that one of the interviewers just lifted up his arm and looked at his watch as if he was a little bit bored, and that made me feel so nervous. We also spent a bit of time debating, you know, what I had written for my research proposal. To be honest, I think the whole process was just like a little bit of a blur. I was very nervous and I was probably sweating a lot and talking very fast. I can actually feel myself feeling more and more nervous and getting more agitated even as I'm trying to remember this memory. But it wasn't difficult, like they were perfectly nice. I think it was just because somehow this was so important to me and I really wanted to impress them and be accepted onto the program that I really worked myself up into a bit of a nervous wreck. But it was fine. I'm very happy that I did it, but I will not want to do it again. Sorry if you're applying, good luck. If you want to actually read what I wrote for the research proposal and for the writing sample, check out the rest of the videos